Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, July 9th, 2020. I'm Keith Tebow. This week, law enforcement officials provide an update on the increase in violent crimes in Fall River. Fall River is one of 8 cities where increased free COVID-19 testing will take place. Local schools continue to wrestle with plans for the new year. And we introduce you to 2 more Democrats running for Congress. We'll have that and more coming up. Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan was joined today by Police Chief Jeffrey Cardoza and District Attorney Tom Quinn to provide updates and the city's response to a spike in gun and other violent crimes across Fall River during the past month. Chief Cardoza says the incidents are not random and the city is beefing up support to investigate and keep our streets safe.
Some of the things that we're doing. I've been in contact with my counterparts from the FBI, the ATF, and the state police. I've asked the state police to deploy some additional resources here at the Fall River. They've agreed to do that. I'm expecting what they call their community action team to be deployed here until further notice. We are also coordinating with ATF to bring back something that we haven't had in a long time, and that's we're going to have what's called a task force officer who's going to be assigned to the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency. So we have their resources as well at our fingertips day or night if we need them. In addition to that, I've been in contact with the FBI, my counterpart in Lakeville. She's aware of the uptick in gun violence here in Fall River. And we're working on some strategies that I'm not going to get into today, but to going forward, what we would like to do. I want to mention that yesterday, as far as the incident that occurred on Mulberry Street involving the Burgos family, detectives executed a search warrant there, and we recovered 3 firearms. The only other thing that I want to mention is some of the individuals that are involved in these crimes here in Fall River are not from this community. Just to echo what the mayor said, this is a hard, I've said it before, I'll say it again, this is a hard-working and humble community. This is full of good people. If you're intent on coming here to commit violent crime, rest assured that myself, prosecutors from the District Attorney's Office, DA Tom Quinn, the FBI, the ATF, and the state police are going to use all our combined resources to identify who you are and then put you in jail.
Mayor Coogan added the city is making a concerted effort to control other acts that are of concern to city residents.
Fall River is bringing back a program that was here a long time ago called Operation Safe Strip. It's going to be extra patrols on the avenue, probably like from the police station, the fire station at Niagara down to the Dunkin' Donuts. We're going to be looking for people that want to do wheelies, race, loud radios, burn rubber. Just know now that that's no longer a free pass. You're going to get pulled over and stopped, and it's in your press packet what we're doing. So we do expect to ratchet things up in that area. Also, as far as fireworks go, we were averaging 20 to 30 calls a night in the city of Fall River for fireworks. On Tuesday of this week, we had 2 calls, and yesterday we had 5. So say a prayer. It seems like it's ratcheting down a little bit.
Governor Charlie Baker announced this week that Fall River is one of 8 communities across the state that will host a series of free COVID-19 testing for anyone interested in getting tested, regardless if they have symptoms of the virus. The move is in response to a rise in cases in our region and the state's willingness to conduct more testing to stem the tide of the disease. Tests will start on Friday and continue through August 14th.
The goal of this initiative is to provide widespread asymptomatic testing in an easy-to-access location within these communities. Increased testing within these communities will help to identify new cases of COVID-19 and help stop community transmission. It will also provide people with a certain sense of comfort if they do believe that they may have been exposed or otherwise believe they need to be tested. The 8 municipalities selected for these free testing sites show the most specific need at this point in time based on 4 metrics. We analyzed data from all 351 cities and towns, looking for areas that had elevated total spread, elevated spread over the past 2 weeks, high positive test rates for the past 2 weeks, and declining test volume since the end of April. Collectively, these communities make up approximately 9% of the Massachusetts population, but have seen 27% of the Commonwealth's positive tests in the past 2 weeks. The statewide positive test rate over the past 2 weeks, as I said before, is a little under 2%, but in these 8 communities, 8% of the tests there have been positive. That includes some individuals who've had multiple positive tests. Despite the continued elevated spread in these communities, total testing in these communities has actually declined by about 40% since the end of April. By boosting testing in these communities, we can more effectively drive contact tracing efforts and support there. This will enable people who test positive to appropriately isolate with supports. It will give them somebody they can talk to about how to manage their time during this period, and it will also help us trace their close contacts and encourage those folks to get tested and to then isolate if they test positive with supports as well.
During our weekly update with Mayor Paul Coogan today, the mayor seemed to think the reported spike in cases in Fall River do not reflect the numbers that he sees.
I'm not against free testing coming to Fall River, but I don't believe what was said yesterday was accurate relating to Fall River. Last night, I was on the phone with the Lieutenant Governor. I've talked to our Department of Health. I've talked to the director. The numbers that they had, that they attributed to Fall River, were more than double what we had for numbers during that 14-day period. I looked at the data, as I do every day, and we were ahead of a number of cities that have been in a big struggle with COVID compared to us: Brockton, Revere, Framingham, Worcester. And I don't think we're on that list. Over the last 2 weeks, they had us down for 94 positive cases when our Department of Health had us for 39. So there's a disconnect somewhere. I hope we get to the bottom of it today. And as I said, I'm not against the free testing, but I don't want people to think that there's a spike or a jump in Fall River, because our numbers over the last 2 weeks have been, other than problem we had one day with the nursing home, our numbers have been excellent.
Elsewhere across the city, the mayor tells us plans continue as to how the Fall River Public Schools will handle getting back to the classroom in September.
We still have a planning committee going with the schools. I did notice yesterday that the Catholic schools all said they're going to be open in the fall with students in front of teachers. I could be wrong, but I think Fall River is heading that way. The variables we're looking at is how many people do not return. They want to do online learning. How many teachers might, for whatever health reason, not be able to come back, and what it's going to cost, especially related to transportation. I think most of the in-house costs we can take care of, but there's going to be a horrible knock if we have to fulfill those seating requirements for busing. Those are the variables that are still in play, just like the budget and things in the city. So we're going to just ride it out and see where this takes us.
In other local school news, as the mayor mentioned, the local K-8 Catholic schools in the region are planning to resume classes in person as normal. The city's public charter schools are also planning for what's next. Our Denise Pumaguaye this week spoke with officials at the Atlantis Charter School.
You guys purchased 1,400 new Chromebooks.
We did, yes. A combination of laptops and tablets for some of the younger students. And obviously this is in reaction to the pandemic and not being entirely sure what the fall is going to look like for students, but knowing that remote learning will probably be at least some component of what they're asked to do come the start of the new school year.
When the schools closed back in March, were you able to provide any sort of computers for the kids or for the youth?
Before school closed, we had a sense that there was going to be a disruption. The news seemed to indicate that schools were closing around the country. And so we took the computers the laptops and Chromebooks that we had at the school, and we shared those first with students who didn't have any devices in the home, and then began to share them with more students. But we didn't have a device for every single student. The good news is that for all of our students, we were able to give them access to remote learning last spring. And so with funds that we didn't spend over the spring because school is closed, we used that money to purchase a standard type, again, either Chromebook or Chrome tablet for all students at Atlantis, so that when we start in the fall, they're all on the same device. It's one operating system. It's one environment that all students will learn from when they're engaged in remote learning.
And talking about the new upcoming school year, what steps are you guys taking?
First and foremost, we're following the guidance from the state and from the federal government, from the CDC. The Commissioner of Education in Massachusetts has talked about this continuum from fully reopening schools and having all students in a semi-normal environment, albeit with restrictions like some spacing and frequent hand washing and those kinds of things. So we've been planning accordingly. So we're picking up from where we left off in the spring in terms of what our teachers are doing to prepare for remote learning, and generally just doing our best to abide by the guidance that has come out over the course of the last week and a half or so. Whatever the news is as we get closer to the fall, that we're able to continue to educate students either as we did in the spring or in a scenario that maybe looks a little bit different.
The Small Business Administration this week released figures on company receiving aid as part of the federal government's payroll protection program. Just over 1,000 organizations in Fall River received that aid. 30 received funding of over $1 million. Gold Medal Bakery was the biggest recipient of federal aid, bringing in between $5 and $10 million. The PPP was created to allow companies to receive forgivable loans from the federal government to pay the salaries of employees negatively impacted by COVID-19. Phase 3 reopening in Massachusetts began on Monday. Rick Kidder and Mike O'Sullivan, co-CEOs of the One South Coast Chamber, says the new businesses back up and running this week included fitness centers and museums.
Getting these places open, getting people back into their routines, I think is really important. I think I've heard a lot of people say, even though they can work out at home and they do work out at home, they kind of miss the camaraderie of the gym. They miss being able to go there. They miss the structure. This will give them an opportunity to have that. But also our museums are opening up as well. And so being able to actually welcome guests into a museum and have that edification going is equally important.
The Whaling Museum is a big driver of tourism in the entire South Coast. It'll also help drive, it'll help some of the educational areas as well. The Children's Museum of Greater Fall River opening will be fantastic. There's a lot of educational opportunities in the summer for the kids that they don't normally get other places. So it's really been it's been hurting, but it's going to be great for the kids as well. So there's those are just two examples of really good things that are going to happen with the museums opening locally.
O'Sullivan says more and more restaurants are beginning to see a resurgence now that they have been reopened for a few weeks.
The ones that are able to open are doing well. Things are going well. There's a lot of good stuff happening there. It hasn't been easy, but they're getting there, and there's a lot of good things happening. You've got the weather's been fantastic, which always helps dining. And like in the coming weeks, or in about a week, we have Pier 52 is going to open in Fall River, owned by Mike and Nicole Lund, sister restaurants to the Tipsy Seagull and part of the Borden Light Marina region there. So it's there's a lot of good stuff happening with the restaurants, and they seem to be doing well. It seems like the issues really are that they're because they have less seating, they're actually full, is what we're hearing. So it's actually harder to get a reservation. Some of them are booked on Saturday nights, weeks out, that kind of thing.
The Fall River Justice Center will be operating under a limited reopening plan that will begin on Monday. All state courthouses have been working remotely since the COVID-19 pandemic hit in March. Under plans released earlier this week, entry will be limited to persons attending in-person proceedings, persons conducting business with a clerk's, register's, or recorder's office, persons meeting with probation, and persons conducting business at other open offices within the courthouses. Even with this reopening, courts are expected to continue to conduct most of their business virtually. All persons entering a courthouse will be required to answer a series of questions relating to their health and undergo a contactless temperature check. Those who are ill or are under quarantine will not be allowed to enter courthouses. We'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Cashier Retail Associate. Schwartz Ace Hardware, located at 1756 South Main Street, has an immediate need for a part-time cashier retail associate to assist customers in a local hardware store. Job number 137-30936. Shift Manager. Wendy's, located at 500 Bedford Street, is looking for a full-time shift manager to oversee all aspects of the restaurant and assist with the execution of daily operations through training, supervision, and team building. Sign Shop Production Specialist. Baker Sign Works, located at 1058 Pleasant Street, is in need of a full-time, experienced sign shop production specialist, responsible for prepping, production, and application of cut vinyl and printed graphics on a variety of substrates. Job number 137-27476. Advance Auto Parts, located at 277 Pleasant Street, is in need of the following full and part-time positions. Driver, job number 137-36157. Inventory Specialist, job number 137-36170. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, also is in need of the following full and part-time positions. Dean of Math, job number 137-35651. Spanish Teacher, job number 137-35611. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. We continue our look now at the candidates running for the Massachusetts 4th Congressional District, seeking to succeed Congressman Joseph Kennedy. This week, we speak with Democratic candidates Jesse Mermel and Ben Siegel. Jesse Mermel has experience working in local and state government. She was a member of the Brookline Board of Selectmen and served as communications director under former Governor Deval Patrick. She says that experience, combined with leadership positions in such organizations as Planned Parenthood and the Massachusetts Women's Political Caucus, makes her qualified to be considered to succeed Congressman Joseph Kennedy. Ms. Mermel says there are many issues important to the voters in the 4th Congressional District, but she believes the overriding factor in improving the quality of life for all in the Commonwealth is affordable health care.
We can't have economic opportunity if people don't feel healthy and safe. We can't have racial justice if people don't feel healthy and safe. We can't have reproductive justice, environmental justice. It all comes down to keeping people healthy. And, from my time running external affairs at Planned Parenthood to seeing just how central reproductive health care is for people, to the time that I spent running the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired and working directly with blind and visually impaired elders to keep them safe, independent, and healthy in their own homes. I have seen the full spectrum of the ways in which our failing healthcare system is making it so hard for people to get ahead in this country, so hard for people to get ahead in the 4th Congressional District. Even an issue like paid family and medical leave that I have been so involved in here in Massachusetts is a healthcare issue. So that's the big bucket that I think I'm most fired up to tackle when I'm in Washington.
Along with being in favor of the Clean New Deal, instituting police reform, and ensuring all children receive a quality education, Ms. Mermel is also looking to close the gap between those with high incomes and those struggling to make ends meet.
And so when I look at communities, and I mean geographic communities and also broader communities of people who share that same feeling that my little town felt, I have a real personal fire in my belly for tackling those issues. And there are some things that I think we need to do at a very basic level to address that. You know, in the short term, a one-time $1,200 check just ain't gonna cut it, right? We need $2,000 a month for at least the next 4 months going to workers so people can survive. We need paid family and medical leave so that if you start a family, if you're caring for a loved one, or God forbid, you need to be cared for yourself, you can do it without risking financial ruin. We need to raise the minimum wage. We need to invest in transportation in communities that have been left behind. And let me be clear, I mean South Coast Rail. I know it's been promised for a long, long time. I was on the state's Regional Rail Advisory Committee that just a year or so ago recommended moving forward with South Coast Rail without delay and not in phases. That also means fully funding the regional transit authorities that exist in this district. 25% of their funding comes from the federal government. If you tackle the issues of transportation, you create opportunities for people to be upwardly mobile.
Ben Siegel was raised in Braintree and currently resides in Brookline. His father committed himself to public service, working for over 40 years at a number of nonprofit organizations, as well as the U.S. federal government. He has Democratic political experience, having worked for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Mr. Siegel has also served on the boards and committees of a dozen local, national, and global nonprofit organizations. In announcing his run for Congress, Mr. Siegel believes there is one overriding issue that has limited the prosperity of all Americans.
So when we're looking at what's the key issue now, we see this issue of eradicating racism in our country as the number one issue now, because it's connected to all the other things. It's connected to our housing system, our health care that you heard me talk about it before, our transportation system. It's connected to our education system. And it's not just racism, it's bigotry and hatred against all groups, because I truly believe that hatred against any one group is hatred against all. But look, one of the first things that I would do if elected to Congress is going to be making sure we pass paid family and medical leave. We can't be the only country, industrialized country in the world that doesn't have that. And my wife with 4 kids, for 2 of them, worked in the federal government and she didn't get 1 day of paid leave. We've seen this under COVID-19. We know that our Black and brown communities are contracting COVID-19 more. They're getting tested less and treated less. And we know that we don't have paid family and medical leave right now, so they can stay at home and not spread COVID-19 and also still put food on the table. I think this is going to be the most important issue, but I do think it's connected to our healthcare and education issues as well.
Mr. Siegel believes in providing a public option for health care, passing comprehensive immigration reform, and supporting the Green New Deal to improve public transportation.
We know the South Coast Rail needs to come to Fall River. We finally look like we're on the path, but it's taken way too long. 20% of Fall River doesn't have a vehicle and they need to take public transportation. And we are not getting them efficiently, effectively, and in an affordable way to hubs of employment, which we need to do, because once we start doing that, it will help raise everyone's income level. And that's part of the Green New Deal. We have to connect our transportation, because of greenhouse gas emissions, to our environment and to our housing. We need to create transit-oriented communities around hubs of transportation in Fall River and surrounding areas that is affordable, market rates, standard rate, all mixed together.
We invite you to join us live this Monday as we will have our 3 final interviews with the candidates running for the Democratic nomination in the 4th District. Join us on Facebook at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 3:45 p.m. You can view all of our candidate interviews by visiting our website. The weather has been a bit warm and steamy, and even if we are spending more time inside, we should be aware of our health. Denise Pumagwaye spoke to the director of Bristol Community College's Fitness Center about remaining hydrated.
Well, as far as staying healthy, what's really important, particularly this summer, has been super warm and it's been super humid. So it's really important to hydrate, preferably hydrate with water, as opposed to, you don't really need a sports drink or anything sweet like that unless you're going to be running like a marathon or something. But if you're just going to be going for a nice walk, you want to make sure that you stay hydrated. And then you also want to take advantage of hydrating with fruit like watermelon and apples and peaches and grapes. There's lots of great fruit out there that's, you want something a little bit sweet, but you want to try to stay away from the chocolate chip cookies. You want to have that nice sweet fruit available for you on your kitchen table. Keep a bowl out so you're more tempted to grab the fruit instead of the cookies for a little snack. And also when you're on your Zoom calls, you want to make sure you have your water right next to you so that when you're chit-chatting, you got your water, Denise?
I got my water right here.
Oh, good girl. I like to put ice cubes in the water too to keep it nice and cold. Or you can put fruit in the water too. If you want a little taste, you can put some lemon in there or put some watermelon or whatever you have, you can pop it in there just to try to stay away from the added sugar. But sugar from fruit that's the good stuff.
We'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Eve. Eve is a 4-year-old, short hair. You can see mostly black, a little bit of white. She's a little nervous right now because this is the first time she's been in this room. So we're looking for a special home which, she can de-stress in, basically. Nice quiet home, that sort of thing. Ideally no children. She is fine with other cats. In fact, she likes other cats. Dogs are a bit too much for her. She is a really sweet girl. Usually she likes this kind of attention. Not so much play, that sort of stuff. She just likes to kind of hang out and get petted. So if you'd like to meet Eve, you can come down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Sam. Sam is a red merle Catahoula leopard dog. He is very handsome, as you can see, very lovable. For anyone who doesn't know, Catahoula leopard dogs are working dogs, which means they were bred to go all day. So Sam is a dog with a lot of energy, and he needs to get it out. A simple walk is not going to do that. He needs vigorous exercise, really good play, a chance to run and get all of that energy out. Sam would do best in a home with no other dogs or cats and in a home with older children. A little too high energy for the young ones. So if you want a very, very handsome, active dog, go on to foreverpaws.com, fill out an application, and then come on down to 300 Linwood Street and say hi to Sam.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. We invite you to visit our website, frmedia.org, for all the latest news and information within the city of Fall River, as well as our latest Channel 95 program schedule. This program airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Thursday.